You're invited to imagine what's next. What the next view you wake up to will be. Where your next adventures will start from. Your perfect space to entertain. And your sanctuary to unwind in. As you begin to imagine your new place, we'll be here to help you find it. Because nothing compares to what's next. Sotheby'sRealty.com.
India's wealthiest city, Mumbai, ranks amongst the world's most severe heat island according to a sustainable urban planning organization research, ARUP. Now, ARUP has recorded NASA satellite readings and shown that Mumbai's temperatures during summer nights are 5 to 7 degrees Celsius higher than its surrounding rural areas. What does this mean for Mumbaikars and how do we avert a future heat crisis in this mega city? Before we get into the answers from our panel of specialists and experts, what exactly are urban heat islands? Now, these are areas within cities that experience significantly higher temperatures compared to their rural surroundings. Why does that happen? Dense construction of buildings, roads, high energy consumption, they all contribute to trapping heat in urban centers. Now, ARUP, which is an organization which focuses specially on sustainable development and urban planning, did a survey based on NASA readings, and the research revealed that Mumbai registered the second most intense hotspot at 7 degrees Celsius. Now let's look at other global cities. Both New York and London had hotspots of just 4.5 degrees centigrade or Celsius compared to their rural areas or outskirts. We have with us Ms. Roshni Udyavar Yehuda, Director Roshni Udyavar and Associates. She's a practicing environmental architect within specialization in energy efficiency and environmental design of buildings. Also with us, Mr. Rajeev, ex-Metropolitan Commissioner, MMRDA, Mumbai Metropolitan Regional Development Authority. Roshni, first question to you. Mumbai as a city is already heavily built up. It now has several mega projects ongoing, Mumbai Metro, Navi Mumbai International Airport, Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link, etc., etc. Lots of construction activity ongoing, and that's contributing massively to the urban heat island. Now, are urban planners and implementing agencies which are involved, the state urban development and environmental departments, aware of this?
Well, except for the development plan, which is created once in 20 years in Mumbai, Mumbai actually lacks a planning process or a formal involvement of planners. And this is more so when it comes to the environment. Things happen as, organically or at random as a city has grown over the last many hundreds of years. As an example, when a project goes for redevelopment, as it mostly does in the city of Mumbai, a site which has a small building is suddenly replaced with a mass of concrete, a vertical mass. And moreover, we are adding, car parks, more and more spaces within buildings, whether it is in the form of vertical floors or on the ground. All this infrastructure in the form of hardscapes is something that is going to absorb and emit heat given the thermal properties of the concrete. Architects are going by the rules and providing the bare minimum open and green spaces, mostly on terraces and podiums, so that the rest of the space is utilized for parking and for apartments in order to fully utilize the floor space index. But building this vertical mass, and many of them, next to each other, leaves little space for wind movement, and this turns it into a hotspot. Wind movement, even though we are a coastal city, is critical in urban heat island, in dissipating the urban heat island effect.
Right.
It's also important to note that there are certain spots which are the spots which are not affected by the urban heat island, and it will be easy to see that these are the spaces which have gardens, water bodies, and the like on the ground, and have either medium or low-rise developments, such as the other Parsi Colony, Mahalakshmi Race Course, RA Colony, Sanjay Gandhi National Park, and so on. So while we need buildings to house people and their aspirations, we also need these green spaces interspersed between them to provide the relief from heat.
Roshni, you've really picked up a very important point. Within the heat map survey that you do of Mumbai, like you rightly pointed out, and I think even audiences across the nation know that a Powai has a massive lake. So Powai actually does not become that hot. And you also then have Ghatkopar, which does not have open green areas, which is the hottest area or has the highest heat island effect, as pointed out with this report. Mr. Rajeev, even our own government-backed research has shown that Mumbai's temperatures have gone up by 2 to 3 degrees Celsius in the last 15 years. You've been at the crux of a lot of development in this capital. Tell us it's a dense city, yes. Housing is needed, yes. Offices are needed, yes. But can we not do this more responsibly and have just these green, zones or canals or trees? Is that not possible?
This is a very important issue which you have raised today. Most of the infrastructure projects which government has been pursuing at present are the projects which will improve the public transport system in the city. The heat island effect which you are talking about, well, let us be fair to Mumbai on that count, that ARUP study has only compared 5-6 cities in the world and then has come up with this conclusion. But this is, if you go worldwide, what was the urban heat effect, then Mumbai is nowhere in the picture. And the heat island effect in Mumbai will be, one day or one time or one season. It depends. This year, the whole Europe was suffering with the heat wave. US was suffering with the heat wave much more. I was in Europe and I was seeing on the road, the city governments had made provisions for showers. People were taking baths on the road when they were walking. So that's the situation in Europe in different cities. This type of climate change, which is happening everywhere in the world, is affecting most of the cities and urban areas much more than any other areas. Coming back to Mumbai. So, in order to improve all this, you have to plant more trees, certainly. You have to improve public transport system. You have to protect your water bodies. You have to protect the quality of water. You have to increase the greenery, that most of the grey rooftops, which you see in Mumbai, can't they be converted into green rooftops? Right. We should be converting them into green rooftops so that the heat effect comes down in the city. And it is very easy for all these cooperative housing societies and make it a good combination of solar water heating system so that you reduce the consumption of energy also in the city. So the solar panels can also reduce the temperature of the roofs. Right. Because the roofs will come under shadow, and it can be a good combination of both the green rooftops as well as solar systems. This will bring down the temperature in the city a lot. This is something which is needed in this city, in addition to improving public transport system, which at present city is working for.
Okay, both of you are mentioning some of the solutions. So let's take a look at some of the comprehensive solutions one can have for mitigating heat. Now, these are green design solutions, starting with green roofs and walls. You can incorporate vegetation on building roofs and walls, which provide insulation, also reduce heat absorption. Cool roofs, now that's the other one, which uses reflective and emissive roofing materials with high solar reflectance, which lowers roof temperatures, again reduces heat absorption. You have something called permeable pavements, installing pavements that allow rainwater to seep into the ground rather than runoff can help cool surfaces and reduce heat buildup. Tree plantation and urban forestry, this everybody knows, including children. Integrating, planting more trees, having urban landscapes which have lots of green provides shade and also lowers ambient temperatures. Now, there's something called high albedo reflective surfaces, which is using light colored materials for pavements, roads and structures that can reflect sunlight and again reduce heat absorption. And then, of course, there's finally energy efficient building design. You're not using glass, but providing proper insulation in buildings, efficient ventilation. Window placement is strategic to make sure that there's a lot of cross ventilation and heat reduction. And of course, there are other solutions which we will keep showing as the discussion goes on. Roshni, these are not difficult things to implement. I think what I sense is that there is not yet a realization. I agree with Mr. Rajeev that maybe Mumbai isn't the worst affected city, but we can't deny the fact that it is affected. All cities are affected, and Mumbai, also being a coastal city, may face the onslaught of the rising sea levels. So, what is missing for the implementation of these very low-hanging fruit solutions?
So I think that firstly in Mumbai, there is no incentive for green buildings. Green buildings have a variety of features like the ones that you mentioned, having energy efficient walling systems, roofing systems, and having high SRI tiles. But in Mumbai, we have very tall buildings, and it's not just the roof. Then we are missing out on the cool roofs because the roof area is really tiny. We have the whole long walls that are facing the solar radiation. And that when it gets heated, it begins to dissipate the heat in the night. So one is that I think there should be green buildings should be encouraged, maybe incentivized in Mumbai, even as it is done around the surrounding areas. So even in Mumbai, it should be done. That would help at least to a certain extent, and encouraging all of these other features like cool roofs anyway as a mandatory part maybe. To at least to a certain extent, it will reduce the things. But where I think is really a greater scope that is available is to have really spaces in between the city which can serve as green spaces, eco spaces. So we should look even beyond the buildings. And as you rightly mentioned, the providing the parking areas which have the paver blocks which can absorb the rainfall. Also, in the larger planning, consider something like having green zones, eco zones. We had designed some of these zones in between the cities, which are very important. We have the example of Manhattan, where we have the Central Park, 800 acres of Central Park. We're not saying we want such a big zone, but at least small states, places within the city, gardens should be there. Could be
absolutely
be encouraged.
Mr. Rajeev, I understand that, we don't want to come harder on Mumbai than any other city because really heat waves are everywhere. All that I'm trying to understand is it's a city which has the least open space per square foot per person, right? I mean, it's a very congested city. As a person who's been responsible for a lot of development in Mumbai, do you think that we can do all of these things? These are very, very easily implementable solutions. What is needed? Is it that different bodies have to come, governing bodies for a city have to come together and talk? How do we get this going? It's not difficult. That's what again and again I'm saying, that these are very easy to do. And when you're creating a pavement, you can make reflective pavements, better material, which have better rain absorption capacity. Why aren't we doing it?
See, one thing we should realize here that a city naturally, with city comes with not impermeable constructions and the pavements. And it is natural with most of the cities. You go to US, almost all the roads are cement concrete roads in US. So the recent policy of the state government of converting cement concrete roads, all the roads into cement concrete roads, augurs well for the city, for the transport system, because the traffic itself creates lots of carbon footprint in the city, and the traffic congestion, when it is there, will certainly create more carbon footprint in the city. So in order to reduce the traffic congestion, in order to reduce the carbon footprints in the city, some of the pavements have to be hard pavements, and we cannot compromise on that. But coming back to the issue that maximum plantations, yes, Central Park, Roshni ji mentioned about the Central Park in US. We have a possibility, and there was a talk going about there has to be a political decision about it, but the race course is available with you. You can take out the race course outside. It's only a grassland there. The whole race course is a big opportunity to get converted into a Central Park type of heat capturing or the green area, green lung in the city.
What about the building laws per se? I understand, okay, you have to have solid concrete roads. But what about buildings themselves, green roofs and walls, cool roofs, how we build, the amount of glass that you see in buildings in Mumbai and in India everywhere, do we really need it? Do we need stronger building bylaws which encourage cooler buildings?
We should discourage glass buildings, you should say. We should stop construction of glass buildings. The issue is that these glass buildings are not cheap. They are not reasonably priced. They are very highly priced buildings because it requires a lot of energy to air condition such type of buildings. So
what we are saying, sir, unfortunately I'm running out of time, but what we are trying to say is that you have to have better regulations for better quality, cooler buildings which don't absorb so much heat. I think that's what I'm hearing, and take all the open spaces of Mumbai and get them to become urban forests. This is a lowest hanging fruit which can be done to dissipate heat. Thank you so much, Roshni and Mr. Rajeev, for joining me today. Well, let's hope that Mumbai stakeholders get their heat mitigation plans in place before it becomes too late. We return with an inspiring story of an NGO providing shelter to the poor in cities like Mumbai who come there for the treatment of cancer for their young children. Stay with us.
You're invited to imagine what's next. Well, the next view you wake up to will be where your next adventures will start from. Your perfect space to entertain. And your sanctuary to unwind in. As you begin to imagine your new place, we'll be here to help you find it. Because nothing compares to what's next. Sotheby'sRealty.com